It's time for the end of BenCon 2024, which makes me a little sad, but I know my team and I are also a little tired, and so we hope we can send you off with some inspiration from some amazing leaders. You've already met Julia Dale, who gave an incredible talk yesterday, and if you happen to miss it, please go back and watch it on demand. Ayushi Roy, who's the Chief of Programs at the New America New Practice Lab, and Julia Simon Michel, who's the Supervising Attorney at Philadelphia Legal Assistance. And so I hope this session really helps show different perspectives and how we come together on some shared problems. Let me give Ayushi a mic. Do a little mic dance. And so we are going to go through our team here to share some visions for the future of what we think benefits could look like. And Julia Simon Michel is going to kick us off.
So I think coming out of these 2 days, the vision that I have for the future has remained the same, which is that I hope that access to public benefits is really curated to focus on the individuals who are the most underserved and the most difficult to reach. I think that we have come a long way, and it's really great when we hear folks talk about how their system works great for 80% or 90% of participants, but it's that last 20%, that last 10% that is the hardest job to get done, but also the most important. Because in my personal opinion, unless you are serving those folks, you don't have a successful program. Unless you are serving the woman who walked into an American Job Center and saw me the other day, who was trying to get her TANF and Medicaid turned back on, but was told she had to apply for unemployment first and provide proof of that, who did not have a working cell phone, did not have access to an email address, and was exasperated. Until your systems work for her, they don't work for anyone. And importantly, when they're designed to work for her, they will work for everyone.
It's on.
Hello. Awesome. I'm going to pick 3 words for what I heard coming out of some really fantastic sessions these last 2 days. And thank you, Ariel, and the team for organizing such a great event. I see the future of benefits delivery as being, and continuing to be, tenacious, as being really personal. We're talking about real people, real experiences. And I also see it as ubiquitous, with the group as incredible as this and so many of your other teammates that aren't in the room today. I just feel really hopeful with all of the peaceful warriors in the room that have been fighting against the accrete for decades, that this will be a ubiquitous future, one that doesn't have to be deserved for some and fought for others.
So when I think of the future, I remain optimistic. I think that's what we need to be, is optimistic. I sat for the last 2 days listening to people cast vision for what can be and what should be. And so I think that's what I walk out of here thinking, is that we need leaders, especially in government at the state, local, and federal level, who are not only willing to cast a vision of what it can be, but who are willing to be gritty and do the hard work of executing that vision. And I think the thing I take away most is that there is a community out here of partners that we can tap into. And I want to encourage us all to do that, to tap into the knowledge and the expertise and the partnerships that exist. Because if we can really just get, cast that vision and partner with one another, I think there's a lot more that we can do than sitting in our silos, operating in our own little spheres of influence, and bemoaning what isn't. This was a great gathering of like-minded leaders and individuals who are all committed to seeing excellence.
Thank you for that. It means a lot to hear that, putting in, I think, vision and time and really designing an experience that we're thinking about of people that we might know that you may not know yet, and making sure that circle becomes not only bigger, but includes all of you in it. I think it's a great kind of pivot to talk about maybe what are some highlights of things you heard in rooms, whether the stage or in the breakout rooms or in the hallways or at the reception or wherever you may have found yourself over the last couple days.
I think what I learned here, but what I knew coming in and has only been reaffirmed from all the presentations and conversations, is that everyone in this room, and I would like to think a majority of people who are working at state and federal governments, care deeply about the programs they're running and the people they're trying to help, and want to do the best job to get the most benefits to the most people in the best time. I want to take the opportunity and say, hi, I'm Julia from Legal Aid. I also want to do that. And we want to be your partner in that. We've heard a lot about trying to reach individuals with lived experiences when it comes to designing and troubleshooting your programs, and that is always the top priority. But I'd like to put out there that Legal Aid is in the trenches with all of those individuals. And if you're looking for folks who understand the barriers that participants are facing, if you're looking for folks who can identify where your system can improve and how they can help get you the feedback, the information, and sometimes the resources to do that, Legal Aid is your partner, and engaging them early and often prevents the problems you often associate us with after the fact. And unfortunately, I think I might be the only one here at BenCon, and that's in large part because, similar to you, we need funding streams to be able to be collaborative partners, because this is a different type of work than what Legal Aid has historically done. But we are able and willing, and so if you're doing your advisory councils, committees, stakeholder feedback work groups, I'd ask, include the advocates, include them, like I said, early and often, not just a rubber stamp at the end. We can help, and we want to help. So I think walking away, I was really grateful for all of the relationships here, but I would like to be able to push the movement forward in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned so much from you, Julia, over the last couple of years of just the real people that you serve every single day. And I think being able to step outside of some of the privilege in our own day-to-day to not always get the chance to talk to those people directly ourselves, because we can't actually directly help them, so they should be talking to you, but being able to hear about some of those things that then we pull into our research and our conversations and we tell government partners about, and they listen in a different way, right? Like sometimes some of these really hard tales and stories need to come from multiple angles, not just one, to help reinforce them. Ayushi.
I learned so much, so I'm going to have to really be wise with my time here. I think one thing that really stood out to me, and maybe this is just the water we swim in, so it's worth kind of naming out loud, is there is this beautiful dynamism of relationships and conversations that often carry the work behind the scenes. This is a team sport. And I feel like I really got to see it when we get to be in the same room and come out of our little Zoom boxes or whatever your suite of tools is, boxes. And it just, I think that kind of power of building this community, building the relationships, so that we can carry the work forward together in a team, and sort of that Red Rover spirit, like you were saying earlier, Julia, I think is one really big learning. And then I think the sort of second thing I'll name is, to me, it really, this particular event felt like it marked a certain milestone in our work. We have people here who are celebrating 10 years, like the Beck Center. We have, 10 years of the U.S. Digital Services this year. We have 10 years of NAVA this year. We just hit 10,000 volunteers nationwide for the U.S. Digital Response. We have, yes, thank you, clap. It's a big deal. And I think we can all think back to where we were in our work if you were in this sort of, universe or discipline 10 years ago and how far we've come. And I think I'm having a moment of learning personally as I thread the needle between what we've done so far and what we want to do next together.
And man, there's still so much to learn.
So much to learn.
So I think I have 3 takeaways that I'm noodling on, I think, as I leave. The first is we have done in Michigan a lot of work with Sevilla on research and lived experiences and wondering about what should the state's approach be to owning that lived experience research and ensuring equitable access no matter the demographic. So I think that's the first one. The second thing that stands out to me is, again, thinking about the multi-use application. And, we can be in the middle of our own thing, whatever that modernization effort is. And and that idea of this multi-use app is rolling around, and I'm like, I'll get there. I've got to cross a few things off the list first. But I think there is so much potential. And then the final thing that really stands out to me, in 23 years in state government, I've done a little bit of everything. We need to encourage leaders, especially in government, to own the role of executive sponsor. If you serve in a leadership position in government and you don't own that role of executive sponsor and you don't engage, do not be surprised when those projects fail, when they fall behind schedule, when they do not successfully implement. And on top of that, we need to coach. I'm really reminded of what it means to coach up this next generation of leaders in government to understand what it means to own that executive sponsorship role. It's more than just being an administrator. It's more than, just making sure that the benefits go out timely. You have to understand and own what it means to be that executive sponsor, because the tone at the top matters.
Well, we are lucky to have leaders like you here in this room, Julia. Let's do rapid fire top session or sessions, not making you pick just one, that you saw this week.
So speaking to the desire for benefit integration, multi-use, I have to call out my friends in New York City who just presented the idea of, I cannot tell you how often folks come in and say, why do I have to give the same document to 10 different people? They're exasperated. They feel like it's disappeared into the netherworlds, and really addressing that concern and having a place where somebody can have all of their documents in a secure space and give access to who needs them is really addressing a need that we hear often. So I thought that was wonderful.
I will also just share that session was a highlight of mine as well. That idea was very nascent when I was in government, and I will share that Darnell was on my team when I was in government, and now he has my old job, which is also really cool to see. But I think this thought of the legacy that you leave on, and so the people that you hire, the people you trust, the people you believe in, the people that you bring into that circle, but also that those ideas sometimes and the delivery of them takes longer than the tenure of the time you're there. And so you better have good people who can keep going. And so proud of Darnell and just grateful to the work. I've been on the subway seeing families go up to PATH, and sorry, I get a little emotional about it. It's really heartbreaking. I used to.
The former chief of staff of 18F, Alan Brulette, used to say, we are one team over space and time, because it takes so much baton passing to get where we are today. And it is personal, so thank you for sharing. There were so many good sessions, like I said, but I think a few that stand out. I'll go in rough order. I thought Dr. Sarah's yesterday was really awesome to kind of just set the stage around the emerging technology and automation and the conversations around deep learning and how that might impact our work. I also thought the conversation this morning, the breakout groups around incorporating the real lived experiences of families into our work was really well done. Shout out to the Public Policy Lab, to Sevilla, to the APHSA, I'm forgetting, Robin Hood. I think those were all really great presenters and a great workshop. And then I'd shout out Ruthie as well. I really appreciated hearing the details of your work and just a big fan of the unemployment insurance work coming out of your office.
I think we were in many of the same sessions. For me, I continue to be fascinated with AI and deep learning, and so I think that stands out. But what I will also say is, apart from the sessions, the lunches and the conversations that I've had with so many of you about what you're doing, how you're facilitating things, the big ideas you have, the frustrations, those to me stand out as the real benefits of coming to something like BenCon, where we get to sit in a room together and just have those conversations that we don't have the way we used to. And being in a room with like-minded individuals who are facing similar challenges is so powerful and enriching.
Absolutely. I've run a very informal, non-scientific poll amongst people on their highlights, so I wanted to make sure some of your voice was also represented up here. And pretty much everyone told me that yesterday's panel on unpacking civil rights and emerging technologies was by far their favorite. And I think not only did that panel, Elizabeth, Clarence, and Henry, make that an accessible conversation. It was easy to me to follow along. I'm not an attorney, could follow what they were all talking about, but also in a bit of a call to mission for all of us, that's not just the legal department, or maybe if your agency has a civil rights division, it's not just their job, it's all of our job in our work. And I think knowing also that there is policy and case law that helps back that up as well. That is all we have time for our reflection, so please give a round of applause to these wonderful leaders for sharing.